Namo Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the beginning of an excerpt of a live interpretation of an oral commentary given by Bhikkhu Thich Tue Hải on the Majjhima Nikaya, the second of the five Nikayas or collections in the Sutta Pitaka. So today we will be studying right thought, right thinking. But before we continue on, we should try to refresh our memory on right view first. So last week we've talked about right view as being non-dependency. It's clarity without arrows. It's our definition. So it's non-dependency and it's a clarity without arrows. So it's clarity unobstructedly. It's a view that is without impediment, that pervasively illumines the three worlds, and there's nothing that cannot be included in this kind of clarity. It's unobstructed. And it is wisdom insight. It is the sphere of enlightenment of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So actually, it's the sphere of perfect realization of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So it's not just a right view that is non-attached, but it is actually a view that is perfectly enlightened, perfectly awakened. So that's what we have defined. That's how we have defined right view. So for somebody who has already attained enlightenment, we use the term right thinking, but actually we should use the term right contemplation. So in the past, we've studied right thinking or right thought, and we think that this is a way of thinking. It's how we think. So, well, when we talk about the Noble Eightfold Path from the point of view of an ordinary being, then saying right thought or right thinking, it's okay. It is not wrong. It's actually in accordance with the ordinary view of people who live in this ordinary world. But now that we are talking about transmundane world, then it has to be from the view of a transmundane person. So when we talk about right contemplation, if we use a more correct term, it should be right insight. It should be called right wisdom insight or right wisdom contemplation. So here we're talking about right wisdom contemplation or right wisdom insight. So what is it similar to? This term is similar to what? To what the Buddha, how the Buddha taught us. Don't search for the, don't search for the past. Don't follow the future. The wisdom insight is right here in this vivid presence. And if you notice and you are practicing, so that is wisdom insight. And there's another sutra that also talk about wisdom insight. When it talks about the conditioned phenomena of this world are like bubbles and dreams and illusions, drops of dew, flashes of lightning. So they should be contemplated as such. So where does this come from? It's from the sutra, the Diamond Sutra, but I did not want to elaborate on this. Well, I may offend people, but I believe that these sentences at the end of the Diamond Sutra is not compatible to what the Buddha taught in the Diamond Sutra, because ever since the beginning, the Buddha had already talked about something that is beyond that. So let's say if we talk about right contemplation now, we have to talk about right contemplation incompatible to right view. So somebody who has right view, then you would have right contemplation, right wisdom insight. Here we're not talking about trying to think correctly or righteously in accordance with the truth, or to try to think in a way so that we can analyze something so that we can come up with the truth. No, there's no such thing as such, because once you have already reached the level of right view, then there's no need for you to contemplate. It's the miraculous manifestation of the realm of truth. That is for that realm of truth, there's no way that you can use the term to think or thinking. In the past, I used to wonder for all the noble beings, the holy beings, after they have attained enlightenment, do they have to use their thinking in order to elucidate, in order to give the teachings? So, well, actually, there's not enough, even enough time to think about something. So, for example, when you are now in front of the public and you give a talk, and you are able to give a talk in one session without having to really think about it, then for all the rest of the teachings, you don't have to think about something in order to give a teaching, but they continue to flow out continuously. So all the knowledge or all the wisdom continue to flow out, not just like a stream or a waterfall, but it's just like a vast ocean. So then you would try to pick out something from the ocean, and then you pick out something that is right on the ocean of wisdom, and then you would use some of that in order to elaborate, to elucidate, so that they can talk about the teaching. So I used to wonder, how could the Buddha do that? And then somebody asked the Buddha a question, and then sometimes conditions happen so that the Buddhas had to give a teaching. But the Buddha had never prepared himself for any talk, because he used everything, he based everything on his wisdom mind. So I talk about this, but let's talk again about wisdom inside as being right in this vivid presence right here. So what the Buddha taught us is not to search for the past and not to falsely follow the future. And the Buddha affirmed that there's only the Dharma of the presence, because the past and the futures are completely wrong, erroneous. And because we are erroneous, and the Buddha did not want us to continue to be erroneous like that, because all sentient beings are like that. Either they look for the past or they search for the future. They have never lived with the vivid presence. So either they search for the past or they look toward the future, and we continuously follow those two paths. We continuously go toward those two extremes. But the Buddha taught us that in this world, there's no past and there's no future, and there's only this presence. And if in this very vivid presence we can live accordingly, then that in itself is wisdom insight. If we think about the past, then it is wrong. If it is wrong, then that is not right thinking, that is not right contemplation. Only this vivid presence is right thinking, right contemplation, and that in itself is the wisdom mind, the wisdom awareness. And right in this very vivid presence, right where we are staying, right where we are existing, right where we are immersion in this very vivid presence, and this very vivid presence is also existing, is also emerging. So this is what the Buddha is teaching us, and there's no second Dharma that he's trying to teach us. The Dharma of the vivid presence, and the Dharma of the vivid presence is the right contemplation. So right in this very vivid presence, how do we contemplate? If there's any kind of thinking that we hold in this moment, if it becomes the past or it becomes the future, then it is not right contemplation. So this is really such wondrous teaching that an enlightened being had taught us, and he had taught this at the very first teaching, and then there were people who attained enlightenment right then and there. They became arahats right then and there. So it means that all the teachings, all the things that the Buddha had taught us, all of his discourses are just like direct awakening. But there were other people who didn't understand that. And they thought that, oh, the Buddha taught this so that we could go home and we could practice, but that is wrong view. So the Buddha said that it is the Dharma of the vivid presence. So right in this very vivid presence, there's no second thing, there's no past, there's no future. And if right here in this vivid presence, we can enter the Dharma of no past and no future, then that in itself is right contemplation, right thinking. So when we talk about right thinking, I think probably because we are using the wrong terminology, but actually the Buddha is trying to teach us how to see the right Dharma. And if we can see the right Dharma, then we live right in this very vivid presence. So, being deviated from the right vivid presence, that means that we don't have the right view anymore, we don't have right contemplation anymore. So if we just have slightly think about the past or the future, then we have already deviate ourselves from the right vivid presence. So the right vivid presence is the only thing, and there's no second thing other than that. The Buddha had said that, but we are so intelligent, so we've learned so much, so many things, so we are full of knowledge, we are full of experiences, we have attainments, we have accomplishments. But if you have attainments and accomplishments that somehow can transcend this vivid presence, then the Buddha would not teach us anything. But the Buddha never taught us anything beyond that. And then the Buddha said that wisdom insight is right in this vivid presence. And then the third sentence is unmovable. And then he said, if you know that, that is the practice. So the Buddha said, knowing that you can live accordingly. If you know that, then you know how to practice, and that in itself is your practice. So in the sentence it says, oh, if you know that, then you practice. But no, actually knowing that in itself is to practice. And if you don't know that, then you are not really practicing, then you are not a practitioner. So you should say that knowing that is practicing. So that would be very clear. And so the Buddha affirmed that this vivid presence is wisdom insight, is wisdom contemplation, is the wisdom that can contemplate unobstructedly without any errors, penetrating the whole three worlds, and this penetrating clarity is unmovable. So that in itself is right contemplation. So right contemplation is not to think and to search for the correct view or the correct truth and to come up with the perfect truth. No, it's not thinking. It's not, because thinking in itself is already being moved. But here the Buddha said that unmovable. So being unmoved is what the Buddha taught. But if you try to think and then you try to move yourself mentally, then it is not what the Buddha is teaching. So we don't use that which is move or that is vibrated. We don't use vibration, and we don't use something that is movable. Anything that's movable or it's vibrating, then that's not right contemplation. Anything that tries to search for the past, anything that tries to look for the future, then it is not that which is existing in this very vivid presence anymore. So that is what is considered to be right contemplation. So that is actually right contemplation, not just being seen as right contemplation. So that is right insight, because so any other way that you try to think or to reflect, then that is not right contemplation. If you can use your knowledge, you use your knowledge and then you try to accept and reject, and then you come up with a conclusion, and then that is called right contemplation. No, that is not. We're not talking about affirmation and negation here. If you have negation, and affirmation, you have choices, you have preferences, then that's no longer right. Once it is right, then it has to be non-dependent. It doesn't depend on past or the future. It doesn't depend on the conditions or the circumstances. It's non-dependency. So then where do you base yourself on in order to have a right contemplation? You base yourself on right view. And if right view is non-dependency, then right contemplation is also non-dependency, because this very vivid presence, it's something that is quiescent, that is clarity, and it's unobstructed. It is it doesn't have the past, it doesn't have the future, it doesn't have it doesn't have time and space. So right contemplation is equivalent to right view, but right contemplation is more vast than right view. But you have to base yourself on right view first. You have to base yourself on right view in order to come up with right contemplation. So let's say if we want to contemplate about birth and death. So right in this very vivid present, what is birth and death is like, you have to contemplate. But if you are a person with right view, then what kind of birth and death is like to you? So can you say something about this? Birth and death doesn't exist, because if the right view is unborn and unceasing, if the right view is omniscient, then there's no birth and no death, right? So that is right view. And then right contemplation, you contemplate correctly, then you can see that all dharmas have already been perfectly complete, perfectly whole ever since since beginningless time until now. You can see that all dharmas are unceasing, unborn. They arise from empty signlessness. So from right view, you can see all dharmas as they truly are. And that in itself is right contemplation, because within any of your contemplation, for example, we say that all conditioned phenomena are like bubbles and illusions and flashes of lightning and dreams. So you can see that, all the conditioned dharmas are like dreams, right? So, for example, we contemplate, and last night we have slept, right? And all of us had dreams, right? Yes, we had dreams, because if you don't have dreams, and then actually I would prostrate to you, because you're now an arahat, a saint. So because as long as our consciousness still works, then it collects imageries, and from the time we slept until the time we woke up, then they are dreams, because during the days when we talk, then all these speech also become imageries in our mind stream. And when we talk about something, then the imageries will emerge in your mind stream. But when you sleep, when we sleep, we can only remember the last 15 minutes before we wake up. And then we dream of having a lot of money being brought to us, and then ended up losing them all. And then we wake up, and then we realize that, oh, it was a dream. And then we had a dream where a mouse would chase after us and bit our leg, and it was so painful. And then we woke up, and then we cry. So anything that happened in our dreams, whether it was negative or positive, whether we suffer or we are happy within the dreams, after we wake up, it is just a dream. Every incident that happened in the dream is just a dream. So a person with the right view must also see that everything that happens in the world are also dreams. So in reality, once we become enlightened, then we realize that, oh, all the things that happen in the world are just dreams. Here we're talking about dreams. We're not talking about illusionary yet. We don't talk about elusive yet. So all of us have the experience of seeing things as dreams, right? So now we're going to be talking about illusionary illusions, how conditioned dharmas are illusions. So So we now talk about the magical illusions, right? It's just like when they try to do magics, they don't have a hook, but somehow they were able to get the fish, and then they did not have anything, yet they were able to produce the pigeons. So everything happened within a blink of an eye. And then within a blink of an eye, they also disappear. So anything that are illusionary, they are not real. They don't continue to exist throughout time and space. It just happened very swiftly and then disappear. So then we can contemplate all the conditioned dharmas in this world are no different than dreams, and they're no different than illusions. So there was a time when I was taking a walk, strolling along the beach, and I was saying that as I stroll along the beach, my shadow was alone, and then within my heart, there was, a feeling of it's seemingly there and it's seemingly not there. So the word seemingly. So when you read the word seemingly, existence is seemingly there, but then non-existent is also seemingly there. So the word seemingly is trying to explain something that is also being said in the Prajnaparamita Sutra. So being and non-being are seemingly there, seemingly not there. So being and non-being are seemingly true, seemingly untrue. So we can actually see this, then we can understand what it means about illusion. So once you are able to see that all dharmas are like illusions, then there's no way that you can be attached to any of the dharmas in this world. So it's like when you truly understand the illusionary dharmas, and you are no longer attached to the illusionary dharmas, then you are enlightened. So I'm actually enlightened, but once you reach enlightenment, then we don't talk about illusions or non-illusions anymore, because the complete vivid presence is now enlightenment. It's now awakening. So in the Diamond Sutra also talk about the conditioned dharmas are like bubbles, right? So what are like bubbles? So when you see the rain, the raindrops come down, and then they become bubbles. And then when you look at the ocean, the surface of the ocean, you see a lot of bubbles as well. And what are the bubbles? Are they permanent? No, they're not permanent, because within an instant they will burst. So we should see all the conditioned dharmas in this world are just like bubbles that we see on the ocean, or on our backyard, or on on a stream, on the river. So when I was young, I listened to a story told by my master about a princess, a spoiled little princess, and it is in relation to all these bubbles. So there was a princess whom was greatly loved by the king. So that day she was looking at how the rain was coming down, and how the bubbles came down, and then how the sun radiates, and how the bubbles also radiate, and they were so beautiful. And then she was very sad after that, and she did not want to have a meal after that. And the king asked her to come out and have a meal, and she did not want to eat. She was just being a little spoiled, and so she said that, "Oh, Father King, if you could somehow, strand the bubbles into a mala for me, then I would be happy and I would eat again." So the king made an announcement, a proclamation, and said, "Whoever could strand all these bubbles for my little princess, then I would, reward you with a lot of money." So nobody dared to do that. And then there was a man who appeared. and then he came to the king and said, yes, I could do that. So then the princess was so happy. She, get up right away. And then the old man, the poor man said, oh, you eat first, and then I would make it for you. So then she finishes eating her meal, and then she said, oh, please do that. And then the old man, the poor man said, oh no, you pick the bubbles that you like, and then I strand it for you. I make it into a mala for you. And then the princess tried to do that, but each time she tried to reach a bubble, it bursts, and it keeps bursting. And then she got tired, and then she said, oh, I don't want to play this foolish game anymore. So we ourselves are just like that. So the Buddha is just like the king, and we are just like his spoiled children. So we play around until we get so exhausted with trying to catch the bubbles. And so we have to practice until one day we could see all events, all dharmas in the world are nothing but bubbles. So then we no longer want to be attached to these bubbles. So so right view and right contemplations are like that. Right contemplation, so that we can understand how all dharmas are like mirages. When we go on the street and we see on the road, and we see how the mirages show up on the surface of the roads, but once we get close to the mirage, then we see that there was no water at all, because they are like mirages. So what are the mirages? They are called mirages because they are elusive. So if all conditioned dharmas can be seen as elusive mirages, they're not really real, they're not really unreal, and our view about everything is being seen as mirages, and that is right contemplation. So everything we see is being called mirages. And then we also say that they are like drops of dew. So what are drops of dew? So for example, in the morning, we see the morning dews, right? And the morning dews stay on the blades of the grass, on the tips of the blades of the grass. And then we try to collect the dew drops, and we put them in a bucket. And then what? And then the sun rises, and then they all disappear, because the morning dewdrops cannot last forever, because they are temporary only. And then also what? The conditioned dharmas are like flashes of lightning in the sky. When we look at the sky, during rain time, the flashes of lightning just swiftly appear and then swiftly disappear. So for all the conditioned dharmas in the world, if we could see them as flashes of lightning, as dewdrops, as mirages, as bubbles, etc., then that is considered as having right contemplation. But actually, the ultimate right contemplation is actually at a much higher level, because everything needs to be based on right view. So when we're talking about right contemplation, it should be wisdom insight. We should call it wisdom insight. It's the right view that is in accordance with our true nature. So true nature is clarity without impediment, is unobstructed clarity, unobstructed existence, unobstructed emotions. So with that unobstructed clarity, unobstructed existence, then we contemplate rightly, and then we come to the realization that all dharmas are non-dependent, are ultimately truthful. So we have to look at all dharmas as they truly are. So once we reach that level, then we realize that all dharmas are truthfully as they are, no longer elusive, no longer as bubbles, but they are completely perfect, completely pure, completely whole. So we don't see them as elusive anymore. We see them as they truly are. So if we see them as bubbles and as morning dews, of course they are not wrong, but we have to reach to a point, the ultimate point, when we can see that they are truly as they are. Well, of course, they are, non-abiding, they are impermanent, they are non-inherent, existent, of course. That is not wrong either. We can contemplate in that way, and that is not wrong. We can contemplate about non-duality, impermanence, non-inherent existence, etc. But that is not ultimate right contemplation. The kind of contemplation that we used to be used to, that's just at a lower level, that is based on our knowledge. So we base our contemplation on the knowledge, on dreams, on our knowledge. So that is still dependency, right? That's not non-dependency yet, and everything becomes knowledge. And once you rely on something to contemplate, then you are being wrong with the right view. Then you are being wrong in accordance with what the Buddha taught us in the sutra, how to live by yourself. Because we don't, he taught us not to go after the past, not to search for the future, and that is unmovable. So wisdom insight is the insight, the contemplation in this very vivid presence. So whoever knows this is the practitioner. Whoever knows this is practicing. We're not talking, oh, you know this and then you practice. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about knowing that means that in itself is practicing. So without the right view, it's very difficult for us to reach right contemplation. We have to reach the point where we remain in this very vivid presence without dependency. And that in itself is right contemplation. If we remain in the right view in order to understand all the conditions, all the truths, then that is right contemplation. We would be able to truly see how our body and our mind are in reality. So now we are old, right? And we are afraid of death, and we are going to be dying soon. And so when we contemplate death and dying, how do we contemplate? It's the conditioned body that is going to be dying. So when the conditions are gathered together, then that's birth. And when the conditions are separate, and that's death, right? Yet, but when we see this, when we look at this elusive form, when we look at the elements, the four elements in our physical body, the solid and the liquid and the heat, etc., and the so they just appear temporarily based on our personal knowledge, on our personal understanding. So what did the Avatamsaka Sutta tell us? It says that what are the four elements? The four elements are just like the Tathagata, the pervasive Tathagata, but they appear in accordance with the karma or the knowledge of the person. So, for example, if we have a lot of negative or positive merits, then the body will manifest in accordance with the directions of the positive merits or the negative merits. So our body manifests in accordance with our karmas. So, but what are the karmas? The karmas ever since beginningless time until now are primordially empty. So if they are primordially empty, then is our physical body, or our being truly existent? So they truly exist because we still haven't transcended our karmas yet. So we manifest in accordance with our karmas based on our attachment. Because we attach to karmas, we erroneously be attached to the karmas and believe that the karmas are true, that we believe that the karma are truly existing, and we believe that the physical bodies actually exist based on our karmas. If we say that the physical body doesn't exist, then nobody believes it, right? But those people who have attained arhatship, they truly can see that the physical bodies no longer exist. And I know of people who haven't yet attained arhatship, but because they have attained a high level of realization, they could no longer see the existence of their bodies. They don't have a view about the physical bodies anymore. And those people who've actually attained, the sainthood called the stream enter, those people themselves cannot see that they have a body anymore, because once you have attained realization, that you could see that the elements within this body and the elements within the universe are unobstructed. When we are diluted, then our bodies become a solid form. But once we have attained realization, then we could see how our bodies are actually hollow, and we could see that all of our pores on our bodies are so huge and so vast. And just like when someone who has attained arhatship and they see their pores being completely hollow and empty. And science also has proved this. For example, if you put this body into an accelerator, an accelerating machine, and then you see that every little pores, which is as vast and hollow as the whole universe. So then, for example, the scientists have put a piece of diamond into the accelerator, and then they could see how the diamonds actually are also empty. All particles of the diamonds are also particles. The solid diamond is actually empty. So, but the Buddha Dharma has already reached this understanding. And the Buddha Dharma has talked about this for countless lifetimes ago. It has always been empty. But before we see that this empty doesn't exist, then they will see first that the physical body is hollow. So in the beginning, they see the outer body, and then the inner body, and then they will see the top of the body, and then they will see the different layers of their bodies. They'll be able to see all the particles, and then they see the inner organs, etc. And then so that's when they contemplate on their bodies. So contemplation like this is right contemplation, to see how their bodies actually are. They contemplate their bodies. That is called right contemplation. But you have to base on the knowing, the true knowing and seeing right in this very vivid presence. We don't base our contemplation on our previous knowledge. So we use our right contemplation to truly see how everything how everything moves within our body, and how everything moves within the whole universe. So actually, when we talk about the universal human body and mind energy, they can see how the energies moves within our body, and how the astral bodies move, right? But actually, no, everything comes from the alaya consciousness. So we're talking about the storehouse of all the mental seeds, right? So right in this very vivid moment, for example, if something if we are thinking badly about somebody, right, about another lady, and then when all the conditions are ripened, are gathered together, then the karmas will happen. And so from the alaya consciousness, all the karmic thinking will arise, will emerge again. And then from the nature of the mind, the functional mind will begin to work. And then it comes together with our discernment and with our dualistic thinking, and then it starts to affect the astral body. And then when it affects the astral body, then the astral body's color will become a very murky color, translucent color, and then it starts to bind the body together, and then it starts to affect the neurons in our brain. And then the neurons in our brain, when they are being connected to the astral body, everything will becomes a dark color, a mean color. So the neurons in our brain will radiate vibrations that makes us feel like, oh, I really hate this lady. So then the last product that is produced from our brains, from our neurons, it produces the vibrations that makes us truly feel like we hate this lady. So that is the last product that is produced from our brain. And then when they see this, they see these vibrations, then immediately they see our aura and our astral bodies, the color of our astral bodies become very dark. And then we would feel, oh, I truly hate her. I want to kill her. I want to, harm her. So, people can see the astral body, and many other people in different schools also see this astral body. So here we're talking about how everything comes from the outside to the inner mind. At that time, there was one time when I misunderstood. I thought, oh, first we radiate all these vibrations, these currents in our mind, and then everything will radiate, and then everything will become brighter and more white and more golden because it radiates outside. But actually, it's not like that. Once our mind is completely purified, is undefiled, we have we no longer have dualistic thinking. So actually, it is due to the nature of the mind. And then we will see how astral body will be brighter and brighter and more luminous and more luminous. So the astral bodies actually are moving unobstructedly and are moving non-stop. And then it begins to radiate our inward into our particles, and our cells will become the same color as our the astral body. So actually, it's not that we are thinking badly that everything becomes purple and that our aura becomes purple. It's actually, it's from the vastness that everything falls into us, just like actually ourselves, we are also we ourselves are elusive. So actually, there's an astral body that covers our whole physical bodies, and this is from the universal energies, from the living universal energies, and then we could feel this energy, and based on this energy, that the aura or the astral bodies will become vigorous, so that we can continue to exist and to live vigorously. So from this aura, if this aura is pure, it doesn't mean that it is because we think purely that our aura becomes pure. But no, actually, it is the astral body, the aura itself. If it is pure, then it affects us, and then we start to think purely. But actually, how can it be pure or not pure? It's from the karmas, it's from the alaya seeds in our alaya consciousness. So all of that affects our astral bodies and our aura, and then the aura affects our way of thinking, our way of functioning. So actually, if I can meet a scientist who is very advanced, and I would like to advise him on maybe coming up with some sort of machines that actually can really benefit the sentient beings. So for the past for the past few, recently actually, I have trained people on how they can actually see the aura and then be able to heal people by their view of how they see the aura. So, for example, so that the healing way can be non-invasive, because you can actually use the aura to heal the sick people. So I've asked some people, what do you see there? And then actually he said that actually there is something that is some that is not completely filled or full in that area. So then I would say, okay, then use your hand to try to rub the aura and make it round and full and hold again. And then because science hasn't proved this yet, so some people ask me, but who will prove this for you? Who will prove this for you that what you are saying is truthful? Well, this is a very silly question that people have asked me many times in my lifetime. So actually, what is happening is that on the outer side, on the outer body, so we have the astral body, and some people would use this as the soul. So the soul is like the living force on the outer body. So the soul doesn't it's not connected to here, but is connected to the outer body, and then it connects to all the sparks of light from the universes and affects us. So whatever color it's it's becoming on the outward, then it will affect the neurons in our brain, and then it will produce negative or positive thinking. So actually it's from the outer aura. So in the past, I've talked about the energy of the energy of the power of of how you can say prayers. Well, actually, that was the wrong way of thinking. Maybe I misunderstood it a little bit, but now it's going to be in, from now on in the future, actually, this is the science of the world, the science of how you can actually heal people. And actually, this is from the outer astral body. And so actually, this is based on the view of how you contemplate on based on the four mindfulnesses. Namo Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the end of an excerpt of a live interpretation of an oral commentary given by Bhikkhu Thich Tue Hải on the Majjhima Nikaya, the second of the 5 Nikayas or collections in the Sutta Pitaka. The interpreter takes full responsibility for all errors that are solely due to her limitations in English proficiency and in understanding the Dharma.